Garcia with the GSA Multiple Award Schedule Program, and he'll go ahead and make his presentation. Thank you.
Sure.
So much.
Well, thank you for that introduction. And I was going to just say thank you to Ms. Melton. I just want to give compliments to Ms. Melton because she organized this presentation really well. I'm so glad that I'm coming up at the end because my information is actually very much dovetails into what Ms. Moon presented and what Ms. Alvarez presented. So I think it's really great. And before I start, I just wanted to point out, because Ms. Moon was bringing up the thing about 23%, and for us, it's very hard for us to think about what 23% actually means. But I'm glad that Ms. Alvarez brought up that the federal government buys about $600 billion of things every year. And then let me just make sure that you know about that. I don't know if you know that, but 1% of that $600 billion is $6 billion alone. And then so the reason why I like to bring that up is because remember that when Ms. Alvarez was showing you the percentage figures, like for small disadvantaged businesses, was that 5%? So what you have to do is take that 5%, multiply it by 6, and what is it? It's about $30 billion, right? And I know it's hard for all of us are probably not millionaires or billionaires, so we can't really visualize what $1 billion looks like. But I think we all probably live in and around Dallas. I don't know if you know about the city of Dallas itself. Has a city budget of about $4 billion. And so essentially, that $30 billion out there for just small disadvantaged firms alone, that's about 7.5 city of Dallases alone that the federal government spends. But I don't know, Ms. Alvarez didn't bring this up, but I don't know if you know this or not. The Biden-Harris administration would like to increase that 5% goal for small disadvantages to 10%. So if it's 10%, 10 times 6 is $60 billion. That's 15 city of Dallases that the federal government plans to spend in the next few years. So that's a great reason why I'm here, because what we're trying to do is, because like Ms. Alvarez just pointed out to you, the small business goals are increasing, but the industry base is decreasing. So what we're doing is we're looking for new contractors, and I'm hoping that all of y'all here in today's audience will be part of that pool of contractors that we can go to. And one of the best ways for you to get involved with a government contracting, like Ms. Melton already mentioned, because she was a GSA scheduled contractor, is the GSA Schedules program. The great thing about the GSA Schedules program is right now, the GSA Schedules program, it does about $50 billion worth of business per year. So that's and that's actual money, $50 billion per year. But the other good thing about the GSA Schedules program, we have over 18,000 contractors in there, but 80% of those contractors are small businesses. And this is significant because right now, and I wish Ms. Melton was actually still a government contractor, because she would probably be able to make a mint of what's going on right now, because we're looking for businesses just like her own, women-owned, small disadvantaged firms and stuff like that, because it's a great way, because when you get on the GSA Schedule program, and like what Nancy Alvarez just pointed out, we have one more week left in the government's fiscal year, and so we're getting ready to spend, we have to obligate that money by September 30th, by next Friday. And if we don't do that, it's gone. And stuff like that. And what happens is a lot of federal agencies, they're looking for people who already have contracts. And when you're a GSA scheduled contractor, you already have a contract. So let's say, like, if you were on that program and we saw something that you did, we can award you a contract by next Friday, and you would be able to do that work during the next fiscal year, but we would be able to do that. And then if you're a small disadvantaged business, that's brownie points for us, because we get to not only count you as a small business, but let's say if you're a woman-owned business, we get to count you as woman-owned business, but then if you're a small disadvantaged business, or let's say if you're a veteran, we get to count you as that. And so that's one of the significant things, and that's why I like to talk about this GSA Schedules program. It's a great way for businesses just like yours to get into the federal government and get your foot through the door so you can start doing business. And usually it's a springboard into the much bigger contracts that are out there. So I hope you don't mind. What I'm going to do this afternoon, I'm not going to spend that much time on it. My presentation is more of a how-to presentation. I hope you're like me. I like to show you the mechanics of how to become a GSA scheduled contractor. As I always like to joke, a lot of times when people do these presentations, they have bullet points, but I'm going to use screenshots. And the reason for that is because I don't want to just show you the beautiful fish in the GSA aquarium. I'm going to show you how to catch those fish, because I think that's what you want to do. So throughout the presentation, most of the time you're going to see screenshots just like this, what you're looking at right now. What you're looking at right now is gsa.gov. That's our homepage. And I might want to also point out to you that if you'd like to, during this presentation, feel free to ask questions. I would rather this be a dialogue instead of a monologue. And right now I'm doing a monologue, but I would rather prefer a dialogue. So feel free to ask questions. But I might want to point out to you that I can also give you a copy of this presentation. You'll see my email a little bit later on. Feel free to email me, and I can do that. And then I would also encourage you that if you'd like to, you can also just email me. I've already started working with Olivia. Thank you. I try to remember your name, and I just lost it. I plan to email her a little bit later on, and I can do the same thing for you. I have plenty of business cards here. Feel free to grab one. Just send me an email, and then I can send you the web links that I'm going to be talking about this afternoon, but I can also give you the presentation. So let's go ahead and start, because like I said, I wanted to show you how you can actually start the process. To become a GSA scheduled contractor, you're right, Ms. Melton can attest to this. You can get a consultant. They're going to charge you an arm and a leg, and some of us are already lost a leg, so we don't have any arm and legs to give up anymore. But the process is actually created for do-it-yourselfers. You can actually do it yourself. It's really not that hard. It's a matter of just putting one foot in front of the other. And I might want to point out to you that I might be doing the presentation to you this afternoon for you, but my job at GSA is to answer your questions and guide you through the process, so you're not out there alone. So when you start this process, if you have any questions, feel free to call me. My job is to get you over each and every hurdle so that we can get you to contract as quickly as possible. And our goal is, once you make an offer to GSA, our goal is to try to get you to contract within 90 days. Now, sometimes you will hear that sometimes it might take about a year to do it. And just like Ms. Alvarez mentioned a little bit earlier, it's because you might have a complicated offer, or you might have something else like that. But normally, if you have a standard offer, and I'll show you how to make a really good offer, then it's really not that hard, and you can probably get to contract. I've actually seen one small business in New Mexico get to contract within 30 days, but he was bending over backwards to actually get it done. But you don't have to do it that way, but 90 days is pretty quick. So what you're looking at right now is gsa.gov. I'm going to show you the quickest way to find the information. It's not the only way. And so what I'm going to do, so when you come to gsa.gov, what you want to do is scroll down to the very bottom of the screen. And over there, you'll see over on the right-hand side of the screen where I already have it highlighted, where it says e-library. You probably won't be able to see it too closely, but there's something called the e-library. And what you want to do is click on that. So when you click on it, you'll come to a web page that looks like this. The e-library, that's how federal agencies find those 18,000 contractors out there. There's a lot of different ways to find it, but over on the far right-hand side, you'll notice that there's a column of boxes, and the second box from the top says Scheduled Contracts, and in there I have it highlighted in blue. It says View Scheduled Contracts. What you want to do is click on that. So let's click on that, View Scheduled Contracts. When you do that, you'll come to a page that looks like this. There's actually 10 federal supply schedules. I don't know if anybody does like medical equipment or anything like that. Does anybody do medical equipment? Do you do medical equipment or medical supplies? What? Oh, okay. For anybody that's in the medical field, there's something called the VA medical schedule. It's not managed by GSA, but it's actually managed by the Veterans Administration. If you do like nursing, you're going to be in 625-1, which is the healthcare medical field. If you want information about that, feel free to still email me. And even though I'm not a VA employee, I can send you the information about the VA program. It's very similar to the GSA program, but it's a little bit different. But I'll send you some web links on that. But for everybody else, at the very top, you'll notice that there's a program called Multiple Award Schedule. And so what you want to do is click on the MAS over there on the far left-hand side. And so when you do that, you'll be able to go to what's called the Multiple Award Schedule. The Multiple Award Schedule is a very large program. Just when Ms. Melton was trying out for it, I think it was 24 schedules. And probably before that, when she first started, it was about 36 federal supply schedules. Now it's only down to one. But now that it's only down to one, we actually have what we call, let me see if I can get it. There's 12 large categories, and then there's about 80 subcategories, and then there's about 300 special item numbers. And the special item numbers are the red lettering hypertext links that you see over here on the left-hand side of the screen. And so what you have to do is, one of the first steps you have to do to become a GSA scheduled contractor or a VA scheduled contractor is you have to find the special item number, which is the red lettering hypertext links that you see here. You have to find at least one special item number that applies to your company. Ms. Alvarez pointed out that she didn't know that we bought Wall Art. Well, Wall Art is actually on GSA's schedule. I could have easily told her that. We have an actual category for Wall Art on there. So if you wanted to, what you'd have to do is you have to find those special item numbers that apply. You need to find one, but you can be in more than one. And so I always like to, the reason why when Ms. Melton was on there, let's say like if I was like in the category with Ms. Melton and I was having, if I sold bathtubs and IT equipment, I would have to have two schedules. But now if I sell bathtubs and IT equipment, I only need one contract. And I can get on the multiple award schedule that way. And so that's the reason why we did this, because we have a lot of contractors out there that used to have up to 5 contracts. I don't know if you know, have anybody ever heard of H.E.L.P? Did you know that H.E.L.P, when he had his companies, both EDS and the Perot Group, he had GSA schedules contracts, and when he had contracts, he had 5 contracts, and the reason for that is because his company did so many different things, he had to get 5 different contracts in order to get that. Ms. Melton had to get 2 contracts, right? Two different contracts. But now, if both H.E.L.P, if he was still alive, and Ms. Melton, if she wanted to get a contract, all she would need to do is just get 1 contract. And then we did that on purpose because instead of managing 2 contracts or 5 contracts, now you only have to manage 1. It's a whole lot easier for you to do. It's a lot easier for us to do also. Yeah, please do, because I think we need to. I might want to point out to you, the significance about the category and the subcategory is a little bit later on when you get ready to do the paperwork to become a GSA scheduled contractor, you have to tell us which category applies to you, which subcategory applies to you, and which special item number applies to you. So on the gray bars that you see on the screen over here, anything to the left of a hyphen is a category, anything to the right of the hyphen is a subcategory, and of course anything to the red lettering hypertext links is the special item number. You have to identify those, and that's why I'm just pointing that out to you. So what I would like to do right now is go through all of the different 12 categories, and hopefully you can find, and the subcategories that you can find, that maybe you can find a place for you now, except for the VA stuff. That's a little separate program, but we can do that separately on that. So I might want to point out, first up is facilities. On facilities, let's say like if you do any janitorial services, you would actually be in this category for facilities. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because we also have another category if you sell janitorial supplies. If you sell janitorial supplies, you're going to be on a different category. But if you do the services, you're going to be on the facilities category. And so I just wanted to point that out to you. Next up is furniture and furnishings. This is where you would find wall art. If you had wall art, you would actually do it in this particular area. And so you can see the different types of furniture we do here. We not only do furniture that's for a household or for an office, but it's also for a hospital and stuff like that. You can do that there. Next up is human capital. So this is anything that's dealing with human people and stuff like that. And also temporary help services is also included in this category. Next up is the industrial products and services category. This is where Ms. Melton probably was in, because she mentioned that she was in 73, I believe. 73. And so, again, if you did janitorial supplies, you would be in the industrial products area as opposed to the janitorial services, and I just wanted to bring that out to you. Next up is we have IT, information technology. Now, the significance about the IT area is that this is our largest category. It does over about $14 billion per year. But the other big problem about it is there's over 5,000 of the 18,000 contractors out there. There's 5,000 contractors in this area. So it's hyper competitive. So if you want to enter this area, you have to make sure that you offer very good prices, very good service, because that's the other thing I might want to point out to you. Even though we have 18,000 contractors, 40% of our contractors have 0 sales. So even if you get a contract, it's no guarantee that you're going to make money. And remember that Nancy Alvarez pointed out to you that you have to do some market research and stuff like that? I hope you picked up on that, because that's very significant. I was smiling in the back because I was saying, yeah, you do need to do market research, because you can get a GSA scheduled contract. It's just a paperwork exercise. But it's no guarantee that you're going to make money, because you have to remember you're competing against other contractors out there, and they have different price points and different services levels and different things. But so you have to make sure that you do that. Matter of fact, one of the things that I always like to point out to is that when you go into the system, you can actually find out who are the current contractors. And if you like to, I'm not going to talk about it this afternoon, but I can actually show you how to study their price list and find out how they're winning business. And there's a lot of other techniques out there. There's something called the Federal Procurement Data System. That's something that Nancy Alvarez pointed out to you, where you can actually find out who's making money and who's making money last night. And so what you want to do is look at who are their current contractors and see if they're making money. And if they are making money, then you might want to look at their prices and see how they're doing it, how they're making that money. And then what you want to do is, if you're a direct competitor, what you want to do is go after that company and say, hey, federal agency, you might be using ABC Corporation right now, but I do the same thing. And by the way, I'm a small disadvantaged business, or I'm a woman-owned business, or I'm a veteran-owned business. And you might have to take away business from that large company that's out there. And you're free to do that. That's part of the competition, and they realize that. And hopefully you realize that too. Next up is office management. This is where we do office supplies and office equipment, document services and stuff like that. Next up is professional services. This is a very large category. As you can guess, the American public is going more and more towards the services side of the equation. And so this category for services, all types of services, this not only includes things like management consultants, but also people that do advertising and PR, but it also involves people doing like accountants and lawyers, and then also people that do work with environmental services and also translation services, interpretation services. Next up is scientific management and solutions. So this is if you want to do work with like National Institutes for Health or any of the public laboratories that are out there, like Los Alamos and stuff like that. Next up is security and protection. Let's say if you do anything like related to law enforcement, like if you do any type of training, or if you did anything like guard services, you would be in this category for security and protection. Next up is transportation or logistics services. And so you can see the type of things that are offered in here. And then last but not, then there's travel, which we take care of lodging, but we also take care of travel agents and stuff like that, and employee relocation for federal employees. And then last but not least is what we call miscellaneous. And in this area, we have things like personal care items, musical instruments, awards, and even things like American flags and state flags that we buy in here. So I just wanted to point out to you. And the other thing I might want to point out, if you didn't see anything that's you don't have covered, not counting medical stuff, because that's a different schedule, but if you define something, you can also be in the miscellaneous category. In the miscellaneous category, we have something called a new item category. And so we're looking for things that are new items, things that we couldn't categorize in any of the other 11 categories. So we do a lot of things. Next up, so hopefully you did find a home that you could probably belong in. So what you want to do is you want to come back to this page that we saw earlier. And then what I might want to point out to you that from this page, you might notice that there's the rectangular boxes right underneath the title. One says GSA contracts, the other one says contractors. What you want to do is click on the box that says contractors. And when you do that, it will take you to sam.gov, and that's where we keep our solicitation. And so what I would like to do is scroll down on sam.gov so you can see the solicitation. You'll come to an area that's called attachments and links. And I want to point out to you that when you come to this area, you'll find that there's 16 attachments. But if you're trying to become a GSA scheduled contractor and you look at those 16 links, you're going to say, oh my God, this is like an IRS form. I'm not going to be able to do this. I might want to point out to you that most contractors, if you only found that you only have to fit into one category or maybe two categories at most, the only thing that you need is about 5 or 6 files. So the other 10 files you can ignore. So if you like to, at this point, if you want to start this process, feel free to email me and tell me what type of business you're in. I can tell you which category, which files will apply to you, and then you can ignore all the others. Like I said, if you just fit into one category, you only need about 5 files. And a lot of these files are just reading files. They're just instructions and information about how to make an offer to GSA. But the rest of them you can just ignore. You can throw them away. They don't even apply to you. And so it becomes a whole lot much simpler. You see 16 files up here and you're going to get scared, but you don't have to do 16 files. You probably won't. Most of y'all will probably only do about 5 or 6 files at the most. Well, unless you do everything under the sun. If you do everything under the sun, then you might have to do all 16 files. So anyway. Next up is I would like to show you how to start the paperwork portion of doing the work on here. So what we're doing is coming back to gsa.gov, and this is our homepage, but this time, notice the search box that's in the upper right-hand corner. What you want to do is type into the search box. I hope I can read up there. It probably says, does it say mass? I can't. Mass roadmap. Okay, good. Okay. I was going to say, so what you want to do is type in the word mass roadmap. It doesn't have to be in all caps. I was doing that so I could read, but I can't read it from this far away. But anyway, it says mass roadmap. What you want to do is type that in there and then press enter. When you do that, you'll come to a page that looks like this. This is an index page, and at the very top, notice that there's a link there that says Mass Roadmap. So what you want to do is click on that. So what I'm showing you right now is actually the first 2 steps on the paperwork portion of it. When you want to become a GSA scheduled contractor, and this, you might remember this, but when you did it, you probably had to pay a fee to get like a digital certificate and other things like that. Now you don't have to do that anymore. It's a little bit simpler. There's actually 2 steps, and what I would like to do is just scroll down here. When you come to Mass Roadmap, look for a section that's called Learn and Understand, and you notice that I've already have it highlighted there. There's something called the Pathway to Success, and then there's something called Readiness Assessment. Previously, when Velma was doing this, she probably had to actually take an online training course called Pathway to Success. Now it's just a PDF file. You just have to just read it. And you don't have to do anything. You used to get a certificate. Now you're not going to get a certificate anymore. But later on, when you get ready to do the paperwork with GSA, it's going to ask you, have you read the Pathway to Success? Your correct answer is yes. Please say yes. Do not say no. If you say no, you lose the contract. So yes, you do want to say on that. Next up is something called a readiness assessment. The readiness assessment is a PDF file also. You'll download it onto your computer. It has about 30 questions or so, but we give you web links where you can find the answers, so it's really not that hard. And then you're just going to answer it and keep it in your file. Again, when you get ready to do the electronic offer with GSA, you're going to there's going to be a question that says, have you completed the readiness assessment? Your correct answer is yes, I have finished it. Please make it a truthful yes answer, and then that's all you have to do. You just have to keep it in your file and show that you have completed that step. And the reason why we ask you to do that is because we want you to be an informed consumer. Both the Pathway to Success training course and the readiness assessment, it makes sure that you understand that you're about to enter a program that's hyper-competitive. You have to understand that, yes, I have figured out that, yes, I can make money in this program, and therefore I need to go through the proper paperwork to make an offer to GSA, because we want you to do that. There's no benefit to us for you to go through all this paperwork that we're about to put you through if you're not going to make money at the end. And so what you really want to do is assess the market. And if you need any help on that, feel free to call me and I can help you assess the market. There's a lot of tools out there, and I can show you whether if you can make money or not, because that's the name of the game when it really comes down to it. Next up is, after you finish the Pathway to Success, what I'm doing is just showing you the Pathway to Success, and here's the readiness assessment. Then come back up to the top in the upper right-hand corner in the search bar. This time, what you want to do is you want to type in the word MAS scope or mass scope. And so when you do that, you'll come to an index page that will look like this, and you can see that there's a link there that says mass scope and templates, and what you want to do is click on that. When you do that, and you'll find out about this when you read the GSA solicitation back at sam.gov, it will tell you that there's a group of attachments and templates that you have to complete in order to make your offer to GSA. So what you have to do is it will actually direct you. It will give you a hypertext link back to this page that I just showed you, but I just showed you how to get to it by yourself. And so what you want to do is scroll down, and there's 2 groups of attachments and templates. First up, there's 4 attachments and templates that everybody has to do, and that's what you'll see up here at the very top. Those are the 4 gray bars that you see there. I'm not going to go into detail about that, but you'll find out more about that when you get into the actual solicitation. But again, if you need any assistance on filling out this paperwork, feel free to call me. And then what you want to do is scroll down, and at the very bottom, there's another group of what we call category-specific attachments and templates. So based on whichever category you pick, you will open up one of these gray bars, just hit the plus sign, and we'll open it up. I'm not going to show you how to do that right here. But when you do that, you'll find some additional attachments and templates. If there's nothing in there, like I think I looked at human capital the other day, there were no additional attachments and templates, you can just ignore them. And so that's what I was going to say. Just go down here and you'll find other things that might apply to your program. If they don't apply to your offer, just ignore them. Just throw them away. Next up is now you want to start going to the next level of the paperwork. So what you want to do is come back to the gsa.gov homepage. This time, and this is interesting, the reason I had to update this just the other day is because we just changed the process last week. I used to have you going a different way to find what I'm about to show you, and you have to actually do it this way now because they just changed the system. What you want to do is come to the gsa.gov homepage, again at the search box in the upper right-hand corner, this time right in the word eTools, which stands for electronic tools. And then so when you click on that, you'll again come to an index page. At the very top of the index page, click on eTools, GSA. And then when you do that, you'll come to a page that's called eTools. You might notice you can go scroll down. And when you scroll down, you'll see where I already have it highlighted. There's something called the eOffer eMod. When Miss Melton did it, she had to pay a digital certificate fee in order to do that. Now it's for free. And so when you come into the electronic offers area, you don't have to pay that fee anymore. So what you want to do is click on where it says eOffer eMod. When you do that, you'll come to a page that looks like this. You'll notice that there's 4 boxes at the very top. What you want to do is read those boxes sort of like a sentence. So you start on the left-hand side and move to your right. I might want to point out to you that, see those 2 boxes on the right-hand side that says contract modifications and FAS sales reporting? Because you don't have a contract now, you can ignore those 2 boxes over on the right hand. You're only going to deal with the 2 boxes on the left-hand side. So what you want to do is come over here to that box that says account registration. You're going to click on it. When you click on it, you're going to be taken to another page, and that's where you're going to create a password and a username, and it's probably only going to take you a few minutes to do it, and it's for free now. And so as soon as you do that, you come back to this page right here, and then you click on that Prepare an Offer button in the Contract Offers box. And then when you click on that, it will take you to the electronic offer area. And the electronic offer, I like it. It's really great because essentially it's a series of questions. And so what you're going to do is you're going to answer those questions. And again, if you need any assistance on that, feel free to call me and I can walk you through those questions. I can't feed you the answers, but I can show you what you're reading and why it's significant of what you're trying to do there. So you're going to go through that process of doing that. And as soon as you complete an offer, you're going to add all those attachments and templates. I always like to say that I like to use the analogy that when you're creating an offer to GSA, it's almost like if you're doing a Christmas tree. As we all know, when we go and buy a Christmas tree, we go buy it or we go cut it ourselves, and then we have a plain Christmas tree. And then we put on ornaments and stuff like that. It's the same thing with the GSA offer. What happens is you're going to see that the offer has this tree. It's a plain tree, but then you're going to have all these attachments and templates that you're going to add into it. And then once you have that completed Christmas tree, then you're going to send it to GSA and say, hey, how do you like my Christmas tree? And we're going to say, oh, it looks pretty good. And that's what's going to happen. Exactly what you're going to do is you're going to submit your offer to GSA. You're going to be assigned a contract officer. And then that contract officer will take about 90 days to work with you on setting up that contract. What will happen is we will evaluate your offer. We're going to be looking at your pricing, making sure that your prices is competitive. Because like I mentioned earlier, you have to compete against other contractors. And so we want to double check that and make sure you can win contracts. The other thing, once you do that, then we will negotiate with you if we need to. And then as soon as we come to terms, then we will do all the paperwork to complete a contract. I don't know if you know this or not, like Ms. Melton already mentioned up, the GSA scheduled contract is a 5-year contract. It's either nationwide or international, so you can either do it just here in the States or international if you want to. And then you have 3 5-year options, so it lasts up to 20 years. So I always like to joke that if you set up your own GSA scheduled contract, at the end of that 20 years, you can probably ask your children or relatives to take it on for the next 20 years or something like that. Hopefully this will give you enough opportunities. And like I said, it's just a springboard. It's just one way of doing business. It's not the only way of doing business. But it's the great thing about the GSA schedule system is that, like I said, there's 18,000 contractors out there. Federal agencies, what they do is they go and look for those contractors. And if they like what they see, they will go ahead and issue a task order, a delivery order against that contract. But let's say if they see that you offer something, but it's not necessarily on contract, they can still work with you and do either a sole source contract, or they can do their own procurement that they can put in SAM.gov, and they already know what you do. So that it's also free advertising for you because it actually shows what you can do out there. And like I said, there's a lot of other contract vehicles out there. Earlier I mentioned that the GSA Schedules program does about $50 billion per year. That's just under 10% of that $600 billion. So remember that, this is one part of the market, but remember there's more than 90% out there with other contract vehicles. And so if you want to try out for those contract vehicles, there are ways to do that. I'm not going to be able to have enough time to actually do it today, but if you need any assistance on that, I can assist you on doing that. Even though I work for GSA, because GSA gets involved in so many different activities, we actually do. Let me just give you one example. I met about a year ago a guy here in the Metroplex. He sells wine. I guess he has a local winery or something like that. And I told him, well, normally we don't buy wine on GSA schedule, but there is a place over here in Grand Prairie called the Army Air Force Exchange Service, and they have stores at military bases around the world. They buy wine for military members and stuff like that. So you might want to go, and what I did was I gave him a web link to the small business office at the Army Air Force Exchange Service. So he was able to go ahead and market his wine to the Army Air Force Exchange Service. So that just goes to show you, even though I didn't, and like for this lady, if she works in the VA or a nurse and stuff like that, I can easily send you the web links about the VA program. And it's very similar to the GSA program, but there's a little bit more involved, and I can show you all that. So like I said, let me go ahead and go to the last slide, because like I mentioned later, I always like to make sure that you have a way that you can go ahead and contact me. So feel free to either call me or email me. I will be getting back with Olivia because she already asked me a question, and so I was going to feed her some information. She had also, I was helping Olivia on something called the Federal Procurement Data System, something that Nancy had mentioned, and also Ms. Moon had also mentioned too. There's something called the Federal Procurement Data System because I want to point out to you, there were a lot of questions about subcontracting. I always like to use, now you can use SAM.gov for subcontracting. There's also at the SBA website, there's something called Subnet where you can do it. And I might want to also point out to you that here on the GSA Schedules program, you can actually go through all those 18,000 contractors, and we give you the point of contact information for each one of those contractors. You can go to them and do it. So like Olivia, she does insurance and stuff like that. I told her about another database at SBA.gov that she can tap into. She can also go to this GSA schedule, go through all of the small businesses or even the large businesses and go to them and see if they might want to offer life insurance to their employees. And that's a nationwide international list. And so these are all information that you can utilize to go after subcontracting. But last but not least, one thing that I like about the Federal Procurement Data System is that you can go to, it's a free website. You don't need a secret decoder ring to get in. You just go to it. And when you go in there, if you want to, there's an easy search box in there, and all you have to do is type the number 1, and it will let you into the system. But if you don't, you can either type in like a contract number, you can put in a unique entity identifier number, you can put in a DUNS number if you still have the old DUNS number, you can put in a corporate name, whatever you want to. But as soon as you get into the system, when you look at the screen, it's divided up in thirds. On the left third, it will tell you, like Nancy already mentioned, it will tell you the top 10 contractors and the top federal agencies that buy that, whatever you're looking for. In the center, it gives you the transaction records, and you can actually find out what people are actually buying specifically. But over on the right-hand side, there's a section called Sort By. And the Sort By, there's a hypertext link for something called Date Signed. Click on the date sign, and what it will do is it reorder all the transaction data, and you can find out who made money last night. It's updated every night. And so you can actually go in there and say, oh, I want to go after business at Lockheed Martin, or I want to go look for business at Raytheon or L3 or AT&T and stuff like that. So what you do is you put their information at Federal Procurement Data System, find out how much money they made last night, and then you can say, oh, I just see you got a $20 million contract with some federal agency somewhere. Maybe I can help you on that. And now you're going to go to AT&T, or you're going to go to that large contractor and say, hey, I'm a small disadvantaged or woman-owned or veteran-owned business. Maybe I can help you on this contract. And they're going to say, hey, how did you know about that? Well, hey, I'm smart. I know how to do it. Go ahead, ma'am. Oh, it's called Federal Procurement Data System. Federal Procurement Data System. Yeah. What you do is just do a Google search. But if you like to, just email me and I can send you the web link. But it's a public database. It's open to anybody. And Nancy was right. A portion of it has gone back into SAM.gov, but that's where you do specialized reports. But if you just want to get raw data, you can go straight to the Federal Procurement Data System. And it's a little bit easier to use at the Federal Procurement Data System because you can go in there. But all you have to do is put in, if you have the unique entity identifier number, which is it's a 12-digit number. It's sort of like your Social Security number, but for companies. And you get it for free when you register at SAM.gov. You get a unique entity identifier. But if you have that number, you can actually track and find out how much people are making. I might want to also point out, if you want to, on the GSA program or the VA program, if you get their contract number, you can put in their contract number without hyphens into that same database, and you can find out whether they're making money or not. And you can also find out who their customers are. Because let's say you did wall art. And you might want to say, okay, I do have wall art, but how can I make money off of that? So you're going to join the GSA Schedules program. You're going to find all those contractors that sell wall art out there, and you can find out how they're doing it. Let me give you, for instance, there are some artists in New Mexico. They sell southwestern artwork. And so what they do is they sell a lot of that artwork to agencies located in the Rocky Mountain areas that are looking for Southwest art. So let's say, like, if you did that, you can actually find, who are the agencies that buy Southwestern art, and then you can probably go hit them up and say, hey, you're going to someone in Santa Fe, but I do really great work over here in Dallas. Maybe you should look at my artwork and stuff like that. So you could do that. So you can use all those databases to figure out, how to position yourself in the market and go after money. Go ahead, Samantha.
So on the contractor listing page for any of the groups, there's different, there's these little image icons.
Oh, yeah, let me tell you about that. I don't have a picture of it. So what you're seeing, and I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a lot of detail. What she's looking at is she's looking at a list of contractors at the GSA schedule page, I suppose, right? On the far right-hand side, you might see it. There's something called GSA Advantage. GSA Advantage is very much like Amazon.com. When you become a GSA scheduled contractor, we're going to invite you to join GSA Advantage. That's how federal agencies can look up for you. And so you can do it that way. Right next to it, on the column right next to it, there's little text boxes. That's the price list. And so when you become a GSA scheduled contractor, we give you instructions for how you create a price list. And what you want to do is look at that price list. Since you brought that up, let me go ahead and raise that. I hope you don't. Do I have a few minutes? Okay. In that price list, let me show you how you can actually find out whether you can compete for business or not. And Ms. Melton can attest to this also. In the price list, we ask you to number the price list. And so always look for numbers 6, 7, and 8. Because the name of the game in GSA schedules is discounts. Because we can come to you right now as a retail customer, but we don't want to be a retail customer. How much did Nancy tell you? We buy over $600 billion per year. We think that the federal government thinks we're the largest customer in the world, not counting China. We think, our taxpayers think, we deserve the best prices. We don't want to pay for $500 hammers. So what we do is we ask you for discounts. So if you look on each price list, 6, 7, and 8, 6 will always be the basic discount. And so you want to find out what that contractor is offering for a basic discount. Number 7 will always be the quantity volume discount. So if you want to incentivize the federal government, you can say, I don't want to try for onesies and twosies. I want to go for the big contracts. So if you give me a contract of $1 million or $2 million, I'll give you a 5% discount. And so that's a way to incentivize us to give you a large contract so that we can get that discount. And then number 8 will always be the prompt payment discount. So again, if we give you a large order, if we're buying a small little pen like this, we're not going to get much of a discount if we get a prompt payment term. But if we buy 1 million of these, and it's going to be a very large order, because it's a very large order, the prompt payment term, if you were to give us, maybe a 0.25% off if we pay you within 15 days, that might be worth our while to do that. And that might be the reason why we give you the contract as opposed to someone else. So what you want to do is always look at those price lists, look for numbers 6, 7, and 8, and then find out how people are pricing their contracts. Because when you compete with them, you want to either beat that price or be competitive to it. Because what's going to happen is, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the column right next to it is also the social economic status. On the GSA schedule, we can do set-asides. And like what Nancy had mentioned to you, we, on some of our items, on that item that you have, does it look like maybe 100 contractors? We'll tell you in the upper left-hand corner.
140.
140? Okay. And then right in the middle, there's a place where you can ask for women-owned businesses. Go ahead and click on there, and let's see how many come up, maybe about 40 or so. It will tell you in the number on the left-hand side. Once you say, ask for women-owned, and then press go, and then it will tell you the... 38. So what happens is you saw that there were 140 competitors originally on that list. When we're just looking for women-owned, now there's 38. And then if you wanted to, on the next column over, there's something called city-state. If you click on the top of the city-state column, it will reorder all the data and tell you how many contractors are in a particular state. So let's say if she looks at that, and there's maybe only 3 women-owned firms in Texas, what's going to happen is a federal agency can create a set-aside. And as long as there's at least 2 of that social economic status or a small business side, instead of going to 148 companies, now we can only go to 3 companies. And we can do a competition. And that's why it's significant to have not only a small business set-aside, but also the social economic set-aside. Whether if you're a woman-owned, whether you're a small disadvantaged, whether if you're in a H.E.L.P zone, whether you're a veteran or a service-disabled veteran-owned. Because what happens is we can create those set-asides. And when we create those set-asides, instead of competing against 148, now you're only competing against 3 people. And if you know you have the best price, you're going to win the contract. So that's what you want to do. And if you're really smart, what you do is you become a GSA scheduled contractor, and you find out there's only 3 women-owned businesses that do that work here in the state of Texas. What you do is you go to all the federal customers in the state of Texas and say, hey, I have a great idea. Why don't you create a set-aside, a woman-owned set-aside for that category on GSA schedule? You're not going to tell them that there's only 3 contractors, and I'm one of those, and you have the best prices. What you're going to do is you're going to tell them, yeah, let's create a set-aside for just women-owned businesses. And they say, that's great. Well, I'm surprised that there's 3 women-owned businesses. And what's going to happen is they're going to create those set-asides, and you're going to win them every time. And that's the way you play the game, legally. What?
Who do you contact for the set-aside?
Oh, you contact a person like me, or a contract officer, and you talk to them. Like Nancy pointed out, there's different influencers. She pointed out to you, there's the person that's actually buying it. There's a person like me, a small business specialist. There's someone at the PTAC. There's someone at the actual contract officer and stuff like that. What you do is you call us. If you wanted to, I can actually show you who actually bought that, because what you can do is you can actually go to a federal agency, find out who the contracting officer is, and what you do is you go to them, you send them your capability statement that you find out from the PTAC, and you go to that federal agency and you say, hey, okay, here's my prices. I'm on GSA schedule. I'm a woman-owned business. And you make that case. You should create a set-aside. And you already know what the decision will be. It will be a women-owned set-aside. There's probably only 3 in Texas. And they're going to probably go to all those 3. And then you know you have the best prices, and you know you're going to win the competition. And you can do it that way. And that's what we call strategic marketing. What you're doing is, we always like to say that when you get a GSA scheduled contract, it's a license to hunt. And that's what you're doing. When you get that GSA contract, you are empowered to go out there and actually create your own market. You go out there and you say, and that's why I'm glad I'm talking to you right now, because you get to create set-asides. If you're a woman-owned business or a H.E.L.P. business or a small disadvantaged business, you can create those set-asides. Because if you look at that list, the more you dice it up, you lessen the competition. And what you want to do is throw out, you don't want to compete against 140 businesses. You want to compete only against 10 or 40 or whatever. You want to increase your chances of winning. That's the whole point. And doing it legally, that's the thing. And so that's why you want to do it that way. And so, and like I said, if you like information about that, we can actually tell you who buys from the GSA scheduled contract. The other way that I can do it is, let's say if you go to a federal agency and you find out that they're not using GSA scheduled contract, they're going through sam.gov and doing something. You can also go to them and say, hey, I know that you can do a women-owned business set-aside on the GSA schedule, and so you can influence that decision. I don't know, Nancy sort of alluded to it, but let me go into detail. We're about to end our fiscal year, which is September 30th. So not this next week, but the following week in October, each agency will start putting out their forecast. And like Nancy pointed out, you can go to acquisitions.gov, and at acquisitions.gov, scroll down, and there's something called procurement forecast. Click on it, each federal agency will put out a Excel file, and normally they will list it by NAICS code. And then on that Excel file, they'll put the NAICS code, and they'll give you the email address of the contracting officer. Not only with the NAICS code, they will tell you what the acquisition strategy is. In other words, they're telling you how we're going to buy it. Are we going to buy it off GSA schedule? Are we going to do it off SAM? Are we going to use credit cards? Are we going to create a different contract vehicle? So what you want to do is you want to go to that, and then you want to go contact that contracting officer with your capability statement, or you can contact me, also the small business specialist for that federal agency, and you can say, hey, I see you're about to spend $2 million on whatever I buy or sell out there. So can we create a set-aside for that? And you're free to do that. Everybody and their brother is doing that right now. Starting on October 1st, everybody's going to go to those forecast lists, and they're just like you. What they're going to do is they're going to go look for opportunities, and they're going to send email addresses to all those contracting officers and say, hey, can we do a set-aside for women-owned or small disadvantage or whatever like that? Everybody's planting their seeds all over the place. And the contracting officers will evaluate this and find out where can we probably get the best deal. And wherever they find the best deal, that's what they're going to do. That's why we put out that forecast, because normally it's going to be a full and open competition. We encourage you to come and contact us and tell us, can we do a set-aside? And what you're going to do is you're going to already know who are the companies out there that are my competitors. And so you're going to start influencing how that federal agency is going to buy that. And you're free to do that. But like I said, everybody else is doing that. And that's part of the dialogue that's going on between you and federal agencies all the time. And if you want to learn how to play, that's how you play.
What if they have multiple set-asides? Is it like, so if I'm woman-owned and then someone comes and they're a veteran-owned, is it like, do people help them create multiple?
Not necessarily, because what they'll do is, remember, they also have goals. And so that's the other reason why you might want to also talk to a person like me, a small business specialist. What you want to do is figure out where they might be lacking. And again, you can use the database and find out, hey, you can go, let's say you can go to Carswell Air Force Base, and you can go to them and say, hey, Carswell, I see that you didn't meet your women-owned goals. You know from Nancy Alvarez that they're supposed to award 5% per year. And last year, this year that we're about to end, they only did 4%. So they didn't meet the 5%. So that means the general out there, he's going to get his hand slapped because he didn't meet the women-owned goal. So you have a very good argument to go to him and say, hey, next year when you're doing this procurement, I'm a woman-owned business. I'm an answer to your prayers. You're not going to get slapped by the Defense Department at this time because you got your 5%. So you have to remember, we get evaluated on meeting our goals. It's not just an empty promise out there. The federal senior executives out there, they get evaluated. If they don't meet their goals, they get their hand slapped, or they could get fired for not meeting their goals. So you're doing them a favor. So what you want to do is you want to go out there and say, I know you have to spend money with me. So I'm the answer to your prayers. Go ahead. Looked like you had a question.
How do you get a government credit card?
Oh, you don't have a government credit card. Let me point this out, and I'm glad Nancy brought this up, and I don't know if you know this or not. Remember I told you that the federal government buys $600 billion? How much do you think we spend on credit cards alone per year? No, it's $40 billion. $40 billion a year on credit cards. You know how many government credit cards there are out there? There's 3 million credit cards. You know how many federal employees there are out there? There's about 3 million federal employees. So every federal employee has a credit card. I have a government credit card in my pocket right now. Because if I travel, I have to use the government credit card to do travel. There's also credit cards for, like, if you use fleet services, like if you get a fleet car or something like that, you have to buy gas and oil and stuff like that. So you have a specialized card. And then we also have a specialized card for people who actually buy, stuff like computers and desks and stuff like that. For the credit cards alone, for just, common things to buy, that's $27 billion itself. So that's why we always like to tell you, when you get involved with government contracting, they sort of alluded to you. Ms. Moon and Ms. Alvarez sort of alluded to, I wish they went into more detail about it, because when you register at sam.gov, there's something called the Dynamic Small Business Search Engine. It's only open to small businesses. And what you want to do is you want to get in there. You get to create a profile, but I don't know if you know this or not, but whenever there's a procurement less than $25,000, the federal government will use a credit card. So at the Dynamic Small Business Search Engine, when you fill it out, there's a question on there, do you accept a credit card or not? And it's usually just a MasterCard, or it's a MasterCard right now, is the preferred.
So
What?
let them know that it's the government's credit card.
Yeah.
They're a credit.
Yeah, it's the government's credit card. It's not your card. What you have to do is, as a vendor, what you have to do is you have to go to your bank and make sure that you can accept a credit card. In this case, a MasterCard. And so if you can accept MasterCard, then what you want to do is you want to answer that question. Says yes, I do accept credit cards. Because then what will happen is we go to that database, Dynamic Small Business Search Engine. We say, let's say, someone give me an industry. What do you do? Right.
What I'm doing, I'm retired now.
Oh, okay. What did you used to do?
Government.
Oh, government. Well, let's say like if you were a management consultant. Let's say if you're a management consultant, and if you were a small business, you would put your profile in the Dynamic Small Business Search Engine. I assume that you're a woman-owned business, or you would have been a woman-owned business. So you could actually go in there and say, I'm a management consultant in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that says management consultant, and I accept a credit card. What's going to happen is, let's say EPA downtown, they say, oh, we need a management consultant to come in here and advise us on something, but it's going to probably be about $12,000. So we're not going to put it in SAM.gov because it's only anything over $25,000. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Dynamic Small Business Search Engine, search for a company, and by the way, we're looking for a woman-owned business because we're not meeting our women-owned business goals. Your name's going to pop up. It says on there that you accept a credit card. We're going to call you up and say, hey, what's your price for doing X amount of work for us? And you come in with a bid saying, oh, I can do that for $10,000. We give you the contract. You just won $10,000 because you had a profile in the Dynamic Small Business Search Engine, and you accept credit cards. And remember, I told you that we can do up to, last year, we did about $27 billion of that. So you can get a portion of that, whatever that may be. So that's part of marketing, and that's something you can do right now. So if you're a small business, and if you accept credit cards, make sure you create a profile in the Dynamic Small Business Search Engine. You can do it for free. And as soon as you do that, what will happen is federal agencies will start going to that database and doing a search. And if they find anything in there, they can do it. Let me just point this out to you. I don't know if you know this or not. There's a consultant in Florida. He charges you $600 to get you into the Dynamic Small Business Search Engine, stuff that you can do for yourself, but he's making money off of it. I don't know why. But in his marketing to small businesses, he says, oh, I can get you a six-digit income by giving you all this marketing information that you can get for free, by the way. Be real careful about that. And that also points out to you, you do want to be in the Dynamic Small Business Search Engine. It's free advertising. It's something that SBA gives you. So take full advantage of it. If you accept a credit card, you'll get all the purchases valued under $25,000. Now, there can also be purchases above $25,000, but most of them are, $10,000 or thereabouts. So, good question.
So the file that you spoke about earlier that contained the forecasts for different NAICS codes, where it's at the bottom of the page, but what's it called?
Oh, go to acquisition.gov and then scroll down. There will be a box that will say procurement forecast. And then just click on it, and then it will list all the federal agencies that have forecast. They will probably be updated in October, because normally they kick off in October, but they might already have some there. And just go through them. They're usually Excel files. And as we all know, in Excel files, you can probably do a find for your NAICS codes. So just put all your NAICS codes in there, find all your opportunities that apply to you, and then, like I said, just read across the table, and hopefully you'll find a phone number and email address. And if you think that it will tell you what the current acquisition strategy is on how they do it. And let's say, like, if you saw in there that it was going to be set aside for a scheduled contractor, then if you're already on GSA schedule, you can go to that contracting officer and send them your capability statement and price list and say, hey, I see you're about to spend $5 million on X amount of work. I'm on GSA scheduled contract. Please consider me. And what you're doing is you're just planting a seed. You're not saying you're actually going to get the business right then and there. Because they might say that they're not going to do the procurement maybe in the second or third quarter of the next fiscal year. But what you want to do is you want to get way ahead of the game and start planting that seed so that you can, hopefully it will sprout in the third quarter of the next fiscal year, and you'll get a contract out of it because they're looking for it. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm still wrapping my mind around what GSA is.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just wondering, is there something that's in the filming world, like I do films? Is there anything that I can
Sure.
contract as far as filming?
Yeah, you can do filming and video production on GSA schedule. It's within our advertising and marketing section, so you can do that. And what happens is you can do, let's say like if there was a federal agency out there and they want to do some training, especially now because of the COVID epidemic, what they might want to do is do it virtually. So they will probably ask you as a videographer or something like that to come in and take a video of someone doing a training course. where they're in a room. But what would you do is you'll photograph it like this gentleman is doing here, and then they'll be able to put it online or something like that. And so that would be a practical use. Or it could be like we also have video people that go out to national parks and they do small videos about how to use park services or whatever it may be. So it could be that. It could also be, let's say if there's a political appointee and they want you to videograph a press conference for them, they might get you to do that, so you could do that. So there's a lot of little work like that. And of course, sometimes there might actually be some people that want to do advertisements. Like, who knows, maybe you might want to be a subcontractor on the next Army commercial. You can do more. So, whatever you want to do. So yeah, it's, if you like to, you can become a GSA scheduled contractor. But we're not the only game in town. Remember, there's other contracts out there. For those, and I apologize, I didn't really explain to you, GSA is part of the federal government. I'm part of GSA, General Services Administration. We just, our job is we serve other federal agencies. And that's, we're known in the parlance, like Nancy pointed out to, we have our own language. We're known as central management agencies. There's 3 central management agencies that work for the federal government. One of them is Office of Management and Budget. They take care of the money. There's Office of Personnel Management that takes care of the people. And there's GSA. We take care of the things. And so I like to say the central management agencies are the nouns, the person, places, and things. So we're the things. Thank you very much. Again, thanks for Ms. Melton for being here. Thank you very much. I'll stick around and do one-on-one questions. I don't know how long we have the room.
We have, it's 1:30, it's almost 1:30 now.
Yeah, like I said, I have plenty of business cards. Feel free to just call me or email me after the fact. And like I said, I'm already have an email going to Olivia later on today, as soon as I get back to the office. But I can easily do the same thing for you. Yeah, please. Thank you very much, Ms. Melton. Let me get out of the way.